And we're live. Um, they say good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Well, now is the time. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Hi, I'm Smart Conserver. I have three persons on the live. Could you please press your thumbs up? Oh, we have three thumbs up. Um, Today we're going to look on the burdens of conservation. Yeah, I know I told you all the while not to make conservation a burden, but there are burdens and it's in the view of other persons. What might be an issue to you might not be an issue to me. So we're going to explore that today. If at any point you have any questions, once it's relating to conservation, I'll answer it. You can type your question in the chat. I have three persons in the live. I only have two thumbs up. Hey Storm. Hey Bruno. All right. So right. So that's the issue today, the burdens associated with conservation techniques. But before I start, there's something that I saw recently, and hi Bruna, welcome. There's something that I saw recently, and I thought it was important. However, it is still important. However, after research, I found that there's a solution to appeasing the both side of the fence. It depends on which side of the fence you are. I'm on one side of the fence as well. And the aim of other persons is to be on one side of the fence. However, let me explain it to you what it is actually. Apparently, there's this thing called death spiral. Now, it's in relation to, hi, it's in relation to electricity. No, I'm fine, Bruno. I'm fine. Are you okay? I'm great. I'm actually great over here. Um, Now with this debt spiral, what it does is because a lot of persons are planning to conserve and are using renewable energy, you will find that because most of the persons are going that route, the power companies are going to be having problems. They're going to be having issues. The thing is with electricity, there's a portion of what we pay, and that is I have five persons in my chat. How many thumbs up do I have, Smart? Storm? I'm calling myself. I have five persons in the chat. However, I'm only seeing two thumbs up. Right. Now because you have persons moving over into renewable energy, you find that the fixed cost that is associated with us getting electricity, no, fixed cost will always be fixed. So take for instance, you have $100 and you have 100 persons on the grid. So that $100 is a fixed cost. I'm not talking about variable cost. No, there are variable costs that are associated with us getting electricity as well. There are two costs. There's fixed and there is variable. Now, with the fixed cost, it's one set cost. So if you have 100 persons on the grid, that $100, if it's a fixed cost, it can be shared with that 100 persons. Or you have three thumbs up. I'm only seeing two. I'm sorry. I'm only seeing two. All right. So that $100 fixed cost can be shared for all those 100 persons who are on the grid, those customers who are on the grid. However, if 50 Hi, Ray. Me can't believe that you're here. Anyway, if 50 persons decide to come off that grid, then you will have the other 50 who are remaining, that $100 will have to share for that 50 persons. So it now means that each person will have to pay $2 each. Now, here is the issue. The more persons come off that grid, it means that fixed cost has to be paid by the persons who are left on the grid. And that's an issue. Hey, Beto, how are you? No, the issue with that is that cost can add up and it increase for the persons who are left back on the grid. If we're complaining at this point that our electricity bills are high when more persons come off the grid, that's the issue. It's going to get higher. Without you even realizing it, it's going to get higher. So I'm not telling you to stay on the grid because I'm not planning to stay on the grid, or I'm planning to partially share the grid. I'm not telling you to stay on to absorb this fixed cost. What I will do is tell of the possible solutions that both sides can benefit. The power company can benefit, and we ourselves can benefit because we need to defer some of these costs anyway. We have to. If we don't, then our pockets will feel it. And businesses are in this thing to make money. None of them not in this thing to lose. I can assure you. So we coming off the grid, it means that they are going to try and find every way possible not to lose. So yes, it is understanding for the both sides. However, as individuals, we have to honestly think of ourselves first. So I'm appealing to the power company. You need to find some ways, some possible way to defer this cost so that we really don't have a debt spiral in our country. Other countries may have it, but to what we have available to our advantage, which is a sun, it means that more of us will cause this debt spiral to occur. And the fixed cost that I'm telling you about is really to um, improve the infrastructure that they have. So if they need probably some light poles, some additional equipment just to keep the power going, then that is where the fixed costs would come in. Storm, are you there? Oh, thanks. No, yes, I do understand the issue from the point of view of being an individual because I wouldn't want to pay it anyway. And I am honestly trying my very best to come off the grid. However, I also am seeing it from the other side where being on that side, no one is really in this thing to lose. We're really all of who you see there now is there to make a profit. Nobody wants to lose. So we have to be a bit understanding. I will create a vlog on this in order to explore it some more because there are some other ideas that I have in my head that both sides can use to benefit. Um, but personally for me, I'm honestly trying to come off the grid. Be it that there's a dead spiral, yes or no, I'm honestly thinking about myself first. And I would advise you do the same. Think of yourself first because at the end of the day, the main aim of a business is to create wealth. And to create that wealth, it means taking the money out of your pocket and putting it into theirs. So we have to come up with a solution for ourselves, and they need to come up with one for themselves as well. All right. Now um, we're back to the topic of the cost, things that are so the burdens that are associated with conservation. Anyone have any ideas? I need two more thumbs up, please, guys. two more. You see the button that has the thumbs up, it's free. So please, you may have to speak to them in Portuguese. So you can speak to them in Portuguese and tell them thumbs up, please. Because I'm seeing some persons who are on. Hey, it's Captain. Hi, Captain. How are you? Thank you. Um, right, the burdens that are associated with it. Like I said before, one of my favorite saying is not to make conservation a burden. You're fine. I'm fine too. It's nice seeing you on my live. I hope you do learn something from all of this. All right. One of my favorite saying is not to make conservation a burden. And you did give me a thumbs up. Thanks. And one of the reasons why I kept on saying it over and over again is that, yes, to some persons it is. Because especially at the end of the month when the bill comes, you hear grumbling or persons quarreling or complaining that the less electricity that they use, it's the more that they pay. While this isn't, it honestly isn't true, I sometimes understand what they are saying. It's like a man saying he's not eating but he's getting fat. So it's quite it's quite understanding when they would say this, because in their minds or in their head, or possibly by things that they are doing, they're saying that they are not able to pay a lower bill at the end of the month. So in that, it can honestly be disheartening. You think you're doing something and it's not working. So that in itself can be a burden, where other persons see it as an issue. And I have six persons in my life. Could you please press that thumbs up button? It's free. We don't charge you for it. All right. So in that way, it can be seen as a burden. No, my the thing is, if you honestly see it as a burden, the best thing for you to do is to write down what it is that you are doing. So if at the end of the day, you know, you're turning off all the lights, or some person said them don't even turn on the TV, them don't even turn on a light, and they are still at a disadvantage. So I understand that point, but sometimes things that we think that we're doing, we're really not doing it. We're really not doing it. If which if we think about it, we're really not doing it. So sometimes we're watching the television and we move away from it. So instead of turning it off and plugging it out to get rid of that phantom electricity, we just turn it off and we leave. And please remember, there is enough power in that television set that at the click of that remote, it turns right back on. So it means that sometimes when we think that we're saving or we think that we're conserving, we're really not doing it. It's not really going through or fulfilling the purpose that we really intend. The intention is not met because we're not following through on what we're doing. No, one other thing too that is very important when we find ourselves being burdened by these conservation techniques is we need to convince ourselves as well that these things do work. We need to. So it doesn't make any sense. Think of it. It doesn't make any sense if someone should tell you, look here, plug out those things. When not in use, plug them out. And at the end of the day, in your head, it not working. So right there, you convince yourself, I don't need to plug out because it's not working. That's not the intent. The intent is to get this thing to work by following it through. If you don't follow it through, then it honestly won't work. You can't have, we have a 30 days bill cycle. So we have from day 1 to day 30. And if we only do this thing for, say, 5 days, what happened to the other 25? We're going to incur some phantom electricity during the other 25. So it means that we need to do something for the other 25 days. We can't just sit down and say it's not going to work while we are not trying. So in that sense, we need to create buy-in for ourselves. We need to buy into the idea that, look here, if I should do whatever it is that I have to do, this thing will work. Understand? So we have to start with ourselves first. The next step, sometimes, Storm is saying that I hear people say it all the time, that they cannot bother, they just pay the bill. Yes, that's another thing too. You just paying that bill, fine, pay the bill. However, if you decide to make that move, please don't complain. Don't complain. One of the, like I said, one of the easiest thing to do is just jot it down what is plugged in. You see, I remember saying to you not long ago that sometimes some persons say that they don't eat, however, they get fat. You see, if you sit down and you write down every time you should put something to your mouth, you'd be surprised to see what it is. You'd be surprised to see the amount of food that you consume within a day or a week or even a month. Just write it down. So write down what it is that you think you use or you know that you use. So you plug in the TV, write it down. Plug in the TV for half hour, write it down. You'd be surprised. That's some of the things that we leave running and we are paying for it. Whether or not you even realize. I think it was last week. I think it was last week or the week before when we used a watt meter to do that test. Some of those things that they say have, even the bulb that had they said that had 100 watts. You see what it was pulling. You honestly see what it was, and it was mighty hot right here. So just imagine you have about, because some persons have them right around the yard on the outside. So just imagine you have some of those bulbs right on the outside, shining as soon as it gets dark, straight back to daylight. Just imagine those. And those bulbs were what? Were they 100 watt? I think it was 100 watt. And you probably have about probably 4 sockets outside with these bulbs. That's 400 watt for the night, and you're doing that for every day of the month. You're gone 30, and 30 times that 400, you see the consumption, that alone. So we need to create that buy-in for ourselves, to convince ourselves that we need to continue to uphold these conservation techniques that we have. If you don't have that buy-in, it honestly doesn't make any sense. You're honestly going to see it as a, yeah, your pocket will feel it. You're honestly going to feel it where it hurts in your pocket. And trust me, once it reaches your pocket, once it have to come out of your pocket and go into their pocket, no, you start creating wealth. Okay, you're making someone else richer. All right, so that's it for buying. So if you're not convinced, honestly, it will not work. And convincing yourself as well means that you need to stick to it, be dedicated. Don't say it won't work and you don't try it. Nothing beats a trial, but a total failure. And trust me, once you try it, it will work. It will work. At some point, I was told that leaving the charger, the phone chargers plugged in straight through the night, it uses phantom electricity. Yes, it does. And some persons would tell you, but that little thing, but it adds up. It adds up. If everybody in the world give you a $1, you know how rich you would be? Just a $1. You don't need no more than the $1. You'll be very rich. So what we need to do, we need to create buy-in for ourselves. So that part, we created the buy-in. So let's move now. One of our other biggest problems, you want 100 of what? What you want 100 of, Storm Chaser? And another issue that we have can be one of the biggest issues sometimes, and it's family members. So we are here and we are trying to convince ourselves. I'm going to make sure that the television is plugged out when I'm not using it. I'm going to make sure that my oh, you want 100, you don't want the one, you don't want the $1. I'll take the $1 because it's easier for everybody to just give me $1. You want 100, okay, fine. One of the thing is with persons, if they don't live alone, it's the issue of family members. So we created a buy-in for ourselves that we're saying, okay, this is our path. We'll come out of the room, we turn off the light, we're watching the TV, we plug it out. Then we have those family members who just don't care. Yeah, it might mean that you have to be a police, and if it means that you have to be an electricity police, so be it. Fine. Remember, it's your pocket. Probably you need to give them the bill for them to see what you're actually saying. Now, if it's a case where you can't give them the bill, you have to foot that bill, you have to be an electricity police. You have to. Because what? You have some persons who will not be convinced that this thing work. And like Storm Chaser said, them just said them can't bother, them just have to pay the bill. There's nothing you can do if they convince themselves that they are going to pay this bill. Trust me, nothing. Them convince themselves already, them going to pay this bill. And because them convince themselves, it doesn't make any sense. It might mean you have to be walking behind them, plug out that charger, plug it out. Some of us in some household, we share the bills. Not because we share the bill, it means that you can do any or just about anything. Speak with your family members. Speak with them. See if you can get them to get this buy-in, if they can be convinced that yes, this thing will work. If it's even to say to them, let us try this thing for a month. And I remember speaking to you that the lights alone not going to cut it, because some of us have already changed out our incandescent bulbs to LEDs, and LEDs are just a small wattage. I don't have more than a 7-watt LED in here. It's only on the outside that I might have a 12-watt LED. And even with the 12-watt LED that I have outside, I really don't use them. I really keep those things in the receptacle that some wasp or anything don't create any nest inside there. So it's easy to say yes, we buy in, but it's another issue with the family members, so it can be a burden on that side. All we have to do is persevere, continue with it, don't give up, see how best we can convince them. I've seen persons convince their family members, and when they look, the bill did come down. And it was at that point that the members of their family have said, okay, fine, it did work. So we're going to do this thing. We're going to do it. So let's do it. So it creates a path. Once you can prove to them, and especially some persons, you have some persons who like evidence. I like evidence. While I do create my own evidence, I guess it's probably because of the job that I do. I do create my own evidence for myself. I like yours come right down, Storm. That's good. So while I do create the evidence, I like to provide it to other persons as well. For me, my evidence might be my light bill. So because I'm doing this stuff, there was a point in time when I was writing down. So I was writing down daily. I came home at X time, I turned on this, that. And I had these things off by that time. I did all of that. All of that. I did the works. I wrote down, and I wrote it down honestly, not only to tell myself what I used. I wanted to see how best I could cut certain things. So I used to have my CPU running from when I come home on, hello again, Beetle. When I have my CPU on from the Friday, it didn't turn off until the Monday morning. I would just get up and go to my bed. And then one day I decided, hell no, I'm going to try it. I'm going to I'm going to plug it out. I'm going to plug out my CPU after I'm finished. Yes, I see you again. I'm going to plug it out after I'm finished in order to have an idea as to how much I will actually save. And it did work. It worked. It worked marvelously. I saved quite a lot on my bill at the time. I have 5% and five thumbs up. That's great. It saved quite a number on my bill at the time. And at that point, I was convinced that my CPU actually, when I have it on at night without using it, even when I'm using it, then I'm pulling electricity. When I'm not using it, I'm actually pulling phantom electricity. And I was paying for quite a lot of phantom electricity. So now I do things differently. What I do now is once I use it and I stop using it, my monitor, yes, it does go black and it says that it's sleeping. However, once you have that thing plugged in, phantom electricity. Um, any other things that person see as a burden, please, you can place it in the chat. Have you tested it with your machine? You mean the watt meter? That's what you're talking about, Storm Chaser? The watt meter? The watt meter that we had, when we had it, I think it was last week or the week before. No, I haven't tested it with my watt meter. However, remember I told you how electricity is actually red for our home. So I know that I have my CCTV running. So if my CCTV add this to my electricity, the fact that I have my computer on, it's going to add a little more and it goes up. It tends to climb. So I'm constantly stacking on that bar. And stacking on the bar, that's where the danger is. Probably if I had the computer alone, then my cost would have been minimal. But I have other things running in the background at nights. So because I have other things running in the background at night, that's where my cost goes up. That's honestly where my costs go up. And no, I have not tested it. I have not tested my computer to see how much it is pulling with the watt meter. I have not tested it. I have only tested things like probably lights. I intend to test my washing machine, but because my washing machine doesn't have, I don't leave it plug in, no time at all. To test it will mean I have to dedicate probably a wash to it. And there's a part of that watt meter that I need to look into some more because it can tell me the actual cost that I incur even with washing. It has a programmable feature where I can program in the cost. So when I plug in whatever it is that I have in there, then I'm able to tell at the end of whatever usage when I plug it out, then this is the cost associated with whatever electricity I was pulling. Understand? So, like I said, the the burdens of electricity techniques that we use. They do exist. And like I say, it might not exist for me, it might exist for you. There are others. Another burden that I can think about is cost. It's a cost. So, in order to make a technique easier, we may need to buy things. So, take for instance, instead of, I have family members who every day religiously they would plug out that refrigerator every day religiously, and that's not an issue to them. For me personally, that would be an issue. I don't honestly have time for that. And I honestly don't think I can even remember that. It would probably take constant practice of trying to remember to plug it out for that to work for me. However, they do it religiously. So they don't want an electric timer. I needed one because I don't have the time to, and possibly it's because of where my refrigerator is positioned. My refrigerator, the plug for my refrigerator is at the back. And because it's at the back, I will have to pull that refrigerator forward to get around there to plug it out. It's going to be a hassle every day to just do that, moving that refrigerator to plug it out. So sometimes using gadgets or using other devices gets the job done for me. Hard work, them love. I would not say that. You know why? Let me explain something to you. Possibly if I had my plug in a location where I can see it, that my refrigerator is plugged out and I can just plug it out, it would be easier for me. Possibly where their plug is, it's easier for them. And what might be hard to you might not be hard to me. Because I honestly do some things that some persons say that they would not do. So take for instance, I would sit here and I would compare my light bill from last month to this month and to see what it is that I've done by my consumption. Because nowadays I used to watch the money that is stated on my light bills. I stopped. What I look on is the amount of kilowatt that is consumed by me for the month. And the reason why is electricity cost increases. There is a variable part to your electricity cost that has to deal with fuel and other tariff. Now, because that is variable, it means it will go up and come down. It's not set, it's not fixed. Now, because it is variable, that is where the issue is. And that is what is causing our light bills to go up at times. So some persons will get a 5,000 light bill today and they are using probably say 100 kilowatt. However, next month the bill is probably $6,000 and they quarrel. You have to be able to compare what it is that you actually used. You can't stand look on a bill just in a vacuum to say a 5,000 versus a $6,000 bill. You can't do that. You have to look on what it is that you use, the amount of electricity that you consumed for that period. And as a thing too, it also is dependent on the period because some of the bills are for a 20, I think it's 28 days, while some is 30. For me, I received my bill at the end of the month. So, like for February had 28 days. I received a bill on the 28th day. If this month has 30 days, I'm going to receive my bill on the 30th of that day. If it has 31, it's going to be 31. So it's impossible to compare a 28 days bill with a 31 days bill. You're going to have issues. Think about it. That's a number of days. Anything can happen. It could mean that you leave that television plug in those 3 days or more. It could mean a lot of things. So therefore, the best thing to do is to compare, especially just the consumption alone. So look at it. If your consumption for if your consumption for 28 days, if your consumption for 28 days, term, translating for me, please. If your consumption for 28 days is say 100, while your consumption for 31 days is probably 110, then that's not bad because it means that in the 3 days you did 10. Understood? It means that in that 3 days you did 10. So it's quite understandable if you compare like with like. It's like going out to compare a banana with an orange. That's impossible because they are two different fruits. So the best thing to do is to compare like with like. I have 6 thumbs up. Thank you. So the best thing to do, honestly, is to compare like with like. That's it. That's the honestly best thing to do. So don't complain too much. And please, another thing, anyone who understands the language, please let's interact, ask questions because your participation is very important. Could you translate what Bruno is saying? Because possibly he's asking a question. Because I see, please go. Thank you. All right. So we have to be able to compare like with like in order to make a better analysis of what it is that we're using. And think about it too. If we sit down all the while and complain, sometimes we complain and it's our fault, you know. It's honestly our fault. I've seen some persons paying some huge, exorbitant light bills, and in them head they are convinced it's not them. They don't do this. They don't do anything. I'm not seeing anything, Storm. They don't do anything. All they did was to just use or barely watch a TV. I've heard it, I've seen it, and sometimes all I can do is just smile. I do give suggestions from time to time. Oh, that was what he said. I'm sorry. That's why I said please. He said thank you. Yeah. I've seen it from time to time where persons are having issues. Persons are having issues, and because of the issues that they're having, they just give up. We can't give up because at the end of the day, you give up, things are either going to get worse, and being worse, it means it's going to impact your pocket, or if you decide that you're going to stick to this thing, it can get better. It can. I'm also incurring I wouldn't say high electricity bill, and let me not word because I don't want them to really hear me. I am also incurring an electricity bill. However, I know for me, and I use the term I've not self-actualized when it comes on to my electricity bill. And I think it's because I see things that I can do to conserve more, and I intend to do to conserve more. However, um it means that I need to put other things in place. Please don't think I sit down over here and I'm plugging out religiously. I don't. So sometimes I have the switches to turn off the TV. I will leave it on. It's sometime after seeing that red light because the red light is in a position where if I sit right here I can see it. Then I said, Jesus, the TV. So it takes some time getting used to. It honestly does take some time getting used to. However, it can be done. It's doable. It is doable. Any questions in the chat? Yes, your participation is very important, Bruno. It's honestly important. All right. Another thing too that I'm seeing where persons are doing is and I've had that question being asked here, is persons are trying to take their light, just the light alone, off from paying the power company. Please remember that the light alone will not cut it. I've heard I've heard um recently, up to I think it was Saturday, somebody called me because their family member wanted to go solar, fully solar, for a house that they have in Jamaica. And the person's reaction was, I told him that he had to still use the power company because he has to still use the light on it. Please, people, that is not true. Yes, we have to, once the power is, how should I put it now? Once the power is sent to our home, or the whatever wiring or everything that is installed in our homes, you have to have it there. So even if you decide that you're going to be off grid, you still have to have that electricity coming into the house. It has to be. There's nothing you can do to stop that. It has to come in. However, you don't have to use it, or you can use it as a generator. You can use it as a backup. Remember, some of us are planning to be totally off grid, and totally off grid means battery power. Yeah, if you can afford that battery power, fine. I can't. I don't have that capacity to manage battery power because of two things. I don't have the space to hold the amount of battery that I think I could use. That's one. And two, I don't have the funds to even start to foot this level of battery, the battery cost. I don't have it. I can't afford it because the battery costs are high. Yes, I do want a form of battery system. I do want a form of battery system. However, I'm not looking that route. I'm looking probably a cheaper alternative by going for the marine batteries for what I want it to use on. So I am do thinking of batteries, but not the more expensive route. And persons have been using car batteries and speaking so passionately about it. They have been getting results. They have been getting results. So you can go that route. However, we just need to be careful as to how we do it. And if you have a a professional do this installation for you, then you have to have that power company inside of your house. You have to. There's no getting around it. You must have them inside there. And it's not a lot of cost. Because when you think about it, I think when you look at the cost of it, it would be probably say, I think it's if it's on all our bills. If you look on your bill, there's a part of it that says service cost or service charge. I think that's it. I think it's a service charge. So the service charge would be probably about, I think, anywhere between $250 to 500 and something dollars. And that's the amount that you would end up paying every month religiously for just keeping them. And I would not advise anyone to tell them that you don't want it, because look here, batteries can go down. Bruno said, unfortunately, the energy issue is very difficult, hence the impression of sunlight. That's true. Or the wind. Not only sunlight, we can use the wind as well. So I would encourage you, don't. I've seen persons who Storm, Bruno is saying thank you. I've seen persons who have been, should I put, they have lost electricity. So the power company has taken back the electricity because of non-payment of bills. So they have taken it back. And what some persons have done is get a system inside the house. Now, getting that system, you really can't run it back through the panel box. So what they do is set up additional plugs. So if you have a power company plug right here, they put it beside it. So they put it as a, it's called surface mount. So they run it along the wall and they attach it on as a surface mount. And that one is for their renewable energy. So anything that they're using, they tend to plug it there. If they plug into the one that is for the power company, nothing will come out of it because they lost power right there. The people in take back them lights. That's it. And take back them light. You don't have this thing anymore. Now, because of that, I've seen where the power company have been to the house because they want to check. And there is a ministry that is responsible for the how must put it now? The regulation of the solar system, and the ultimate aim is, even if you have some form of solar going, then it should be, I wouldn't say registered, probably it's registered with them so that they know. That's the aim. However, persons have been setting up the thing, persons have been doing their thing all over the place. The only one that they regulate as much is the ones who are grid tied, like me. So for me, they have to regulate mine. I have to go through that system to get whatever certification there is to be approved. So that's really it when it comes on to this renewables. You have to get it registered, and if you choose not, you can't go grid tied unless you are registered. You have to be registered because there's two set of registration. You do it first with the ministry approves it. Then if you want to get back some money, then you have to go to and apply to the power company to say, hey, I'm now grid tied. Can you buy my electricity that I have in excess? Buy my electricity that I have in excess, just pay me for it. Because can I tell you, if you grid tied, and you don't try to approach them to sell it, but they are getting this electricity for free. So you have to decide if you want to make back some money or you just let it go. Give them it for free. You have to decide whichever one it is. And like I say, the best thing to do once you're going grid tied, regulate straight through. I'm not sure if there are persons who the power company has turned down, but they didn't for me, and the power company came here and they tested, they checked, they did the works before it was approved for you to sell them whatever electricity that you had. It had to be approved. So like I tell you, there's a right and a wrong way to do it. You have to, once the power company sends this form of electricity in your house, you have to have it there. Even if you don't use it, you have to pay these people the service charge monthly. And like I said, if you really think of the cost that you're going to pay or you're going to save with these, as your friend Smart says, sunlight is given for free. Yes, it is for free. And we must, there you go. We must take advantage of the renovation. The electricity bill is very high. It's high in your country too, Bruno, is it? I know it's mighty high here. I think we're on, based on the chart that I've seen, Jamaica is way up there with the cost for electricity. And for being such a small country, it's too high. It honestly is too high. And the cost for electricity is dependent on fuel. And you know how strange it is? Let me tell you how strange it is. They purchase electricity from me. I think it should be at a stage where I say to them, okay, you buy it from me for $3, sell it to John Brown for $4. And I should have the choice as to who I sell my electricity to. Suppose I wanted to sell my electricity to my neighbor next door. All of that should be possible, but they don't. They buy it for very cheap and sell it back to whoever it is that they choose to sell it to, probably you, for this exorbitant price. So they are making this quite big profit already from just buying it from me and selling it to you. And please don't expect them they're going to pay you much for it. They don't. They don't. And the cost of it is also regulated and it is stipulated. If you look on your bill, sometimes you see like I think it's either $7 or $11 for the first 100. I think that's it. And then it goes to $20. Right. They pay somewhere between, no, I think they pay a little over the 20 something dollars. And the prices varies. The prices varies from month to month. It's not set. So it varies. And please, people, um, please, people, it 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 takes us to create a problem for ourselves. Sometimes some persons are dead set, hell bent that, look here, this thing not working. They're set up in their minds that this thing is not working, and they convince themselves that it's not working, and they choose some method that brings on additional stress onto themselves. Please see if we can get rid of that negativity. It will work once you put your plans in place for it to work. You can't, I tell you already, you can't sit down there and eat and say you're getting fat because you're not eating. Nothing don't go so. Majority of the times, we are our own problems. We are our own problems. So we would need to eliminate that negativity at first. Eliminate it. And the next thing is we need to speak to our family members. Speak to them to see how best it is that we can save. You have some of these phones that we have now don't need 8 hours charging. We're sleeping for 8 hours and our phone plugged in. Our phones are plugged in for the entire duration that we're asleep. Our phones don't need that amount of charge. And after a while, when that phone don't charge, we're just wasting our electricity. Remember, every little bit add up. I told you already, this thing is a stackable thing. So if you using if you're using say a microwave that is 700 watt and you use the first 700, then somebody decide to turn on a TV that is 100 watt, it's going to add on to the 700. It now becomes 800. So the wattage is stacking, and the higher it's stacking is the more these people are saying, yes, come, give me the money. So we have to be careful. We have to. If we don't, we're going to be in the problems. If we don't, um, one of the issues as well that I'm seeing is, and I told you already, that persons are taking the wrong things off from the power company. You know that if you have a light, a 7 watt light bulb, that's the only thing you have running 24 hours a day and for the entire month. You know, you'd be surprised to see that the bill for that one 7 watt light bulb, it's very small. You know, you'd be surprised. So see if you can take the right things off. Take the right things off the power company, relying on the power company. So you have those microwaves, don't leave them plugged in, please. My microwave is 700 watt, and just imagine, um, Bruno. Yes, here the electricity is also, it's not a little high, it's huge high. Together we will learn with our friend Smart. Thanks. Um, we we have the tendency to leave the bigger things plugged in as individuals. Hi, good night. We have the tendency to leave them plugged in for the night or for the duration that we're there. I know I used to love seeing the clock on my microwave. It was this pretty little thing. And I used to love seeing it. Yes, good night. Or you're telling Bruno good night. Bruno, she's telling you good night. So it's this pretty little thing. And I honestly loved it. However, what I realized is that that clock was using my electricity. So I had to eliminate that. So now I have it where my microwave is also positioned. The plug is also at the back, and it's rather hard to plug it out. So what I do, I use a switch. And with that switch, once my microwave is done, then I just power down the switch. And there's no electricity in that microwave. So we have to find we have to find a little way to eliminate that burden, or reduce. It might not be elimination, it might be reduction of that burden. And if we reduce it, we will benefit. Trust me, we will benefit. And benefiting from those, especially those big items, you will see where your pockets will thank you for it. Right, Storm? Our pockets will thank us for it. So we can find a way around those burdens that we have. We can. We just need to be persistent in what we do. It's rather hard, like I tell you sometimes, to think that we're doing something when we're actually not doing it when we check it out. But try it. Please try it. I have 7 persons on my live now, and I thank you very much for being on my live. Is there any question? Storm, you always have questions. Any questions tonight? I see Bruno making a commendable contribution to my live. Um, I see Ray came in and he said hi. I thought he would have had questions, but I think he's watching right there. I'm convinced me saying watching, so who to tell? Um, any questions? I see Bruno said that the cost for electricity is also high in his country. I think one day I'm going to do an analysis to see the countries that have it. I know for us, we may be number 7 on that list. We are very, very high. So I think I'm going to do an analysis one day because I like to know what it is that is happening. Light bill must go down. It's impossible to go down, Storm, because of the war that is going on and the cost of fuel. And there is this strange thing that is happening with fuel in our country. Let me explain to you what is happening in our country with fuel. The thing is, we are tied to an agreement. So our power company would say to whoever it is that they are buying this fuel from, I need say 10, I need say 10 gallons of this fuel every month. Now the thing is, the price for that fuel, I don't think it is set. However, you will still get it cheaper than what you're getting it for at the pumps. And Getting it for that cheaper price, it would mean that if come 1 month you only use 9 and you have one drum lead, you cannot tell, we cannot tell the suppliers that we need only 9 to make it up back to the 10. We already signed a contract for the 10, so we have to take the 10. So just look on the dilemma that we're in. We have to take something sometimes that we don't need. And if persons are coming off that grid, like myself, where we're trying to come off the grid, it means those persons who are left on the grid has to pay for that fuel or whatever fixed cost that there is. Remember, I told you that the very first thing that I start with was the the electricity death spiral. It's what is causing, or it can cause some serious implications for the persons who are left on the grid. So if I can't afford to come off it, I can't afford renewable energy, it means that it may reach me if something is not done by myself to either come off the grid, be on the other side of the fence, or I decide to pay these people their electricity cost, or they themselves come up with a solution in order to defer me from paying this high bill. They need to come up with a solution as well. And there are things. So it's one thing to say, but it's another thing to do. Um, you're trying to conserve yourself and take yourself out of the pressure. I agree. We have to think about ourselves because they're not thinking about us. They're only thinking about their pockets. All right, guys, it's now 1 minute past 7, and normally my live go to 1 hour. As there is no other question, I want to thank you all for sitting with me, going through the live. It has been quite interesting to see some of my, almost put it now, to see some of my Brazilian friends on the live, and I welcome you all. I have friends from Brazil, from Ghana, from um, England. I have India as well, and it's rather disheartening that they honestly made an effort. And some of my Jamaican friends are not making that great effort. But I do thank you for joining my channel as well. Possibly you'll learn something from it. I thank you all. And for all that is on here, I want to say either good morning or good night. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bruno.